Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And we have got a phenomenal story this evening. Ruhok Zara Marley, biological child of Bob Marley, never told her story before. And I was on the phone with Zara. She just gave me snippets of it. And she is an absolute power speaker, extremely charismatic, tells stories at length, doesn't cut them short, which is one of the things we love on this channel. And her life includes, she was, let's say, we're going to change the language for this, so I have to think carefully. She was privy to what happens to people who get to rise up in celebrity culture, the rituals, the tunnels. She's going to talk about the tunnels and explain the tunnels. She met Diddy. And Diddy, they had a discussion about the soul, what Diddy had been through, or rather the lack thereof of the soul. These are just tiny little bits of Zara's story. Is so massive. So before we get into what she's writing about in her book, which involves SRA, and she's on an activist mission to help people who've been through these heinous things, these kids who get sacrificed for fame, and it scrambles their minds like the MK Ultra style. Before we get to all that stuff, Zara's going to give us her backstory in summary. She may come on in the future to give us an even bigger version, but for now, she can only give a summary. And then we're going to get to talk and take your questions about what she knows being inside the industry and seeing the rituals, the tunnels, the SRA, the things that happen to these young people for fame. And it's just absolutely fascinating that we've got someone who's not just commentating on it, but has lived it. So huge thank you for coming on, my friend. And we've got also Zara's links are in the description box below this video. If you want to reach out, support, check out her project on Facebook. So yeah, thank you for coming on. I can't wait for this one.
Well, thank you for having me. But before we get started, I have to give a shout out to my publicist, Nadia, because she's the one that linked us together. And so without her, it wouldn't have been possible. So I want to give her
Okay,
a shout out.
shout out, Nadia. I really appreciate you getting in touch with me. And yeah, my mind is blown by everything Zara has told me so far. So I think you said we're going to start out with a summary of your backstory before we get to the Diddy and the all that stuff.
Yeah, so I don't want to spend too much time on my backstory either, because you can find all the information on my Facebook. And my backstory is like 10 stories, so it's better just to give a basic outline, and then if people want more information, they can check it out on my page, or like you said, I can come back. So I was born in 1970. Bob Marley is my biological father. um it's a very complicated story. My mother was underaged, but it wasn't like a creepy, inappropriate thing. It's just that the laws back then in the 60s, the age of consent was much, much higher. Like if the same thing happened today, it would not be illegal. And you know, I think that as peers, all of us have had some kind of experience where, like, I'm 17 and you're 15, and then as we grow older, at one point I'm 18 and you're under, and there's that, age of consent, which is the law. So legally, my mother was underaged, but it wasn't some like just weird, creepy thing, or. So my father got manipulated. That he would go to jail and lose his career, and he was just starting out, and this is 1970. So I went to go live in New York with his second father, his second cousin on his father's side. So it's the white side of the Marley family. I don't speak patois. I'm not exactly, I guess, what you would think of like Bob Marley's biological child. um but that is who I am. My paternity was proven when my father was still alive, and it's never been disputed. And my family, although I'm not recognized on the internet, um, like if you Google who are Bob Marley's children, I won't come up. but my paternity was proven, and my family knows everything I'm doing. They know about the books that I'm writing. They know about everything I've been saying, and they're more than welcome to sue me if they want to dispute anything or cease and desist me, but they haven't. I try to speak very respectfully. I think it's very important um, to be authentic and at the same time maintain a right to privacy. So like I only talk about what I want to talk about. Sometimes people will like demand stuff and they think that they have an automatic right just because I'm famous or I'm related to somebody famous, that we have to live in glass houses and share everything. And I share what I want to share if and when I feel comfortable sharing it. So um you know, a lot of people want to know about my mom, who is she, and this and that. And, you know, everyone has a right to their privacy. So what I'm comfortable telling about my story is that she was underage, and that's why my identity was hidden and covered up. It was to protect my father. But I did get to spend a lot of time with him and some of my siblings. And I actually have really wonderful stories. My father never abused me. My father is an amazing person. I have a lot to say about him. Um, I mean, we could do a whole show just on what happened there. You know, a lot of people know that my father was basically assassinated, that he was given the cancer. Um, and there's people like my uncle, Bunny Livingston Whaler. He has a blog and he wrote all about everything that was going on back then. So I don't want to get into all that, but it's pretty serious. But people don't really understand the meaning, the reason behind it. Like a lot of people say it's because of his political stance, um, but the truth is that he refused to participate in the sadistic cult that's behind the music scene, and so they eliminated him. And I can get into that more, but before I really get into anything, um, I'm just learning about like what words you can say and the abbreviations for them and stuff like that. So bear with me. But I don't when I speak about my experience and I speak about what's going on, and in my book, I don't call it satanic or ritualistic abuse, because the root of it, what's behind it, is sadism. The religion that they're actually practicing is sadism. And I wrote down the definition of sadism. Let's hope I get it right. I mean, I know what it is, but if you Google it, basically sadism, it's deriving pleasure and benefit from inflicting pain, humiliation, and suffering. So they intentionally inflict pain and suffering and humiliation, and they derive pleasure from it. So it's not some like random thing like how did that happen. There's actually like energy harvesting going on. I can just like talk about this stuff, like you guys aren't gonna think I'm crazy.
No, my viewers, our viewers here, they're hip to, you know, rituals and the
All right.
club and how young people are sacrificed on the altar of fame.
So see, all of that stuff is actually like a show. There's something deeper going on behind all that. And what it is it's sadism. So what I talk about is sadism. And sadism is intentionally inflicting harm and suffering and pain and humiliation so that they can benefit and have pleasure. They get pleasure out of it. So how does that work? That's what I talk about. And so there's something called opposite and equal reaction magic. And a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about, you guys probably have not heard of, or I hope maybe somebody has, but um, you know, you hear about like the Illuminati and this and that and all of these, you know, secret brotherhoods, but there's actually something behind that. There's something deeper than that. And the things that you hear about, even MK Ultra, this is just kind of like the puppet show. So I talk about like what's going on behind the puppet show and who's running the puppet show. And so this like you say, sacrificing on the altar of fame, what's beneath that? What's the root of that? That's what I talk about. And so the root of that is sadism. And so what they do is, okay, so for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So they intentionally inflict pain so they can harvest the opposite and equal reaction, which is pleasure. That's how it works. They're doing magic. There's energy behind it. And it's basically just a manipulation of energy. So for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So if I cause you this much pain, you're going to be able to harvest or reap this much pleasure, the opposite and equal reaction. So that's what these people are doing. That's the reason behind it all. It's, they're sorcerers. So, and they don't just recruit people, or, you have to understand, there's so much depth to this. Like my book, Reclaim Your Soul, it breaks down how it works. So, I mean, I can talk about Diddy, and I can talk about my experience, I can talk about my family, and I'll talk about it all. But where my passion is in exposing the root of why these people are doing what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they get out of it, and for the people that are victims, how to survive it, how to escape it. See, my mission is to create a safe space, actually, for victims. And one of the ways that it works is you hear about the drugs that are going on at these parties or whatever. The name of the drug that they're using is called scopolamine. And it's also known as devil's breath. And when it's given to somebody, they literally become a puppet. This drug somehow disconnects you from your free will. And whatever somebody says to you, you don't question, you do it. And then it also causes amnesia, so then you don't remember. And you can look it up online. It's written about. And it's a very, very dangerous drug. So this is the drug that they've been using. And what they do is they'll give it to somebody, and then they'll get them to participate in some of this very horrible sadistic behavior, things that they would never normally do. And then they video it, or they take pictures, they get it on camera, and then they own that person. So then they control that person. So it's more than the music industry, the entertainment industry. It's in politics. It's in big pharma. The root of all of this that's going on that you see in the music industry, it's sadism, and it's much, much bigger than the music industry. So the SRA and the satanic cult stuff, I don't use those words. I use the word sadism. So I guess to really follow along on what I'm saying, I think that's probably the most important thing to understand, is that the root of all of these horrible things that are going on, the SRA and all that, it's for this sadistic sorcery. And to take it deeper, there's different kinds of souls in the world, right? So we have human souls, and we have angelic souls, we have interdimensional souls, and we have demonic souls. So I mean, I don't want to get into a whole spiritual lesson, but basically humans, they can't do these things. These really sadistic practices and ceremonies, a human soul can't do it. Like a regular human being just can't even comprehend how somebody can do that and then, enjoy it, right? So there's different ways that somebody gets demonized, but basically in these ceremonies, it's demons operating through human bodies. These people have become completely demonized, and that's how they're able to do these very sadistic practices. So my book, Reclaim Your Soul, that's what it's about. It's about what's really going on and how it all works and what they get out of it and how to escape it, because a lot of people were children and they were looped into it. So here's where I'll talk about Sean. So first of all, Sean made some very bad choices, and he allowed himself to become a monster, and all of the things that he did, he has to be held accountable for. In no way am I excusing his behavior or anybody's behavior, and that has to be very clear. I call him Sean. I met him as Sean. So yeah, Sean Combs. I can talk about how I met him and all that, but what I want people to know is that when I talk about all of these things, Um, I understand that a lot of these people were originally victims. So Sean was a victim, right? From the time he was a child, but that doesn't excuse his behavior. He still has to be held accountable for the horrible things that he's done. Right? He made those choices. But at the same time, we have to have some kind of understanding about what these people have gone through. Sean is just one out of many. Okay, most of these people you see in the music industry, they start out so sweet and so pure, and they just want to buy a house for their mama, or they just want to showcase their talent, and you can see them become demonized. You can see how they've just, changed who they are. They're not the same person anymore. So there's a system of how they demonize people, and there's the root of it all is sadism. So that's what I talk about. So let me tell you how I met Sean. So I met Sean, it was in the early 90s. I was in Manhattan. I was actually hanging out with the Wu-Tang Clan. Now, I knew them before they were in the studio. I met them in 91, and I actually drew their logo. So there's a big story behind that. So they were in the Firehouse studio, and we were just kind of chilling, kicking it on the streets, whatever. It was the early 90s. And Sean had heard about me, that I was Bob Marley's daughter, and that I had kind of escaped some of these very horrible things. As a child, I was a victim of this sadistic practice. And to be very clear, it was after my father died, and it was not by my father. My father absolutely never abused me. He was an amazing man. This stuff was going on when he was in the music industry, and he absolutely refused to participate in it. So they eliminated him. Same with Peter Todd, my uncle Peter. He,
Zara,
yeah.
before we get to the Sean Combs story, it might be good for the viewers if you could just explain how you come to understand in your life what the nature of this, how it came about in your life first.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't talk about details of what goes on in these ceremonies because it's number one, triggering. Second of all, it's disgusting, and third of all, it's just vulgar and inappropriate. So I talk more about like the purpose of what they're doing, the purpose behind it. So like in these ceremonies, they're highly organized. They have hierarchies. They have all kinds of like music, and it's a ritual. It's not some random thing. It's very organized. They're very organized people, and basically what they're practicing is sadism. So as a child, I was abused in that way, and it was horrible, and I'm still healing from it. And it was from the ages of 14 to 16, and I'm not going to get into my whole story, especially not in this video, but when I was no longer in that environment or situation, I chose to work on healing myself. So I went to ashrams. I spent time meditating. I took vows of celibacy, vows of silence, vows of poverty. I just wanted to heal up myself, and healing is absolutely possible. Um, and I mean, we can talk all day long about what they do and how they do it, but in the end, I'm more focused on how to recover from it, how to um, how to escape it, because there's people that are looped in from childhood, like Sean. So he was abused as a child, and he told me that from the time he was 4 years old, he was used as an altar. And what that means is they drug the child, they bind the child, and then they use the child as the altar upon which they sacrifice. So the altar is actually an innocent child, and it is the most horrific, insane experience. That is the most darkest evil that and it's it's beyond comprehension, really. So when I met Sean, he told me that, you know, he wanted to know, like, is it possible that you could ever live a normal life after having an experience like that? And since that had happened to him, he was you know, a part of this whole system in society. And what happens to so many of these kids is, they're abused and then they become the abuser. So although the abuser has to take responsibility for their actions, even if they were a victim of childhood, I'm more focused on the healing. So I spent time healing myself. Um, I had to hide my identity, and it was I lived in a very different reality than most people. I had a lot to deal with, and I just I just realized that I needed to become whole again. I needed to put myself back together, because they don't just take you in this ceremony. It's so much more than that. There's psychological abuse. There's emotional abuse. When you're in the society, they're abusing you every single day. You're the scapegoat. They decide who they're going to abuse, and they set them up to be crazy from the beginning. They plan, like, who their scapegoat is going to be, and the abuse, it's not just in the ritualistic setting. They're abusing you every single day, emotionally, psychologically, mentally. It's a big thing. It's, you know so my book addresses all of these things, and it's called Reclaim Your Soul, because that's what it's all about. It's getting your soul back. But the root of it all is sadism. So how do people get caught up in this? You know, the first lie, we know the devil is a liar, right? So what's the first lie? The first lie is that you can sell your soul to begin with. You see, everybody's been lied to and deceived. And the reason I want to bring this information out and write this book is so that people can understand that they've been lied to and deceived, and they can have an awareness that can help them heal. So I'm talking more to, like, the victims, not necessarily to, like, the audience that's interested and wants to know. I'm more interested in my book is more directed towards the victims. So the awareness that I'm trying to bring about is to help people understand how they've been deceived. And the first deceit is that you can sell your soul to begin with. Nobody can sell their soul. The soul belongs to God. Okay, it can neither be bought nor sold. So that's the first lie, that the devil tricks you, and these people that are practicing sadism, that's how they trick you, right? So they drug you, they get you to do things that you would never do. They record you, they catch you, they own you, and then it's like, well, you've sold your soul, and they keep them locked in the system, and they're trapped and they can't get out. And I walked away from everything. I had to absolutely just walk away, and I did that. I left the country. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And I mean, I could have stayed in America and lived a normal life, but I chose to just go far away and to work on healing myself. And that's what I've been doing all these years. So the soul can neither be bought nor sold. All of these rituals are just a small part of it. It's like, for them, the icing on the cake. They practice abusing people from the very beginning in everyday life. These people are sadists. They're everywhere. They're not just in the music. I mean, we could talk about the music industry and these, rituals and things they do to become famous and stuff like that. But that's all kind of nonsense. The root of it, it's much more than the music industry. It's running this world. It's the elite that's running this world, and this is how they're doing it. This is how they catch people. This is how they control people, and this is how they keep people trapped. And I think that as we evolve as a human community, a lot of these lies, they fall away, and we're raising our consciousness. So many of us, we're having this great awakening, and all of these darknesses are coming to light. So for me, my focus is honestly helping people that have gotten trapped in it, that have been victimized by it, and to give them hope, to let them know they've been lied to. You can't lose your soul. Reclaim your soul. It's kind of like your soul is here, right? And you didn't lose it. It didn't go anywhere. You just turned away from it. You know what I mean? So turn back to your soul. So there's a lot of healing that has to happen. I could talk all day about, you know, the horrible side effects of being raised
Zara,
up. Yeah,
Zara, let's go back to the conversation you were having with Diddy, because you're in the middle of that.
I know
You
I'm
were
all over
saying,
the place. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. You're doing absolutely phenomenal. Everybody's blown away by what a powerful speaker you are. It's all love and support in the chat, and they're all saying about the resemblance with your father as well. So you're doing absolutely great. Ron's here as well. He's going to put some pictures up whenever you want the pictures up. But you were talking about, you were starting to have a conversation with Sean Combs
Mhm.
about emerging recovery, life after these rituals. So how did that conversation evolve from that moment?
That means, ooh, I've been hearing that a lot lately. That's what I hear when we make another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're selling Pokemon cards or hoodies, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can successfully grow your business. Covering all your sales channels, from a shopfront ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform. Shopify even gets you selling across social media marketplaces like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Full of the industry-leading tools ready to ignite your growth, Shopify gives you complete control over your business and your brand without learning new skills in design or coding. And thanks to award-winning help and with an extensive business course library, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way. What's lovely about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify will be there to empower you with the confidence and control to take your business to the next level. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/Sean, SHAUN, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/Sean to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.co.uk/Sean. Link in description box if you're watching this on YouTube. Thanks for supporting our sponsor.
He had said to me that he was used as an altar from the time he was 4 years old. And what that means is they drug the child, they bind the child, and then they use the child as the altar upon which they sacrifice. And it is the most horrific kind of abuse that I think exists in this world. And so that happened to him when he was 4. That's when it started. And he told me that he didn't think he could ever escape it or live a normal life. And he didn't even think that he had a soul. He was just like, you know, like, how would I know if I had one? You know, and at the time, you know, I felt really sorry for him because I know what he had been through, and it is damaging beyond, you just can't even comprehend how they destroy your mind. They destroy your ability to trust. Sadism, it's more than just, you know, this can I say sexual gratification? It's not, it's more than that. They try to break you down and hurt you in every single way. And the first thing they do is they break your ability to ever trust anybody. And they have these sick psychological games where there's even, like, you know, the good person and the bad person. And so somebody is hurting you and abusing you, and then you have someone that's supposed to be the safe person, and I'm going to save you and I'm going to help you, and then they turn out to betray you and abuse you even harder. And they just do all of these sick games so that you end up not being able to trust. So in these rituals, the ritual is just the icing on their cake. They are breaking you down in every single way, in every aspect of life, till you can trust nobody. They're turning you into a monster, and they're demonizing you. And so they, you know, in their sorcery and all of their different witchcraft practices, they're you know, assigning demons to the person, and these are the innocent children victims. So once they become demonized, you don't really know, like, what is a soul? Do I have a soul? And when you're used in that way and abused in that way, and you have your trust completely broken, you just damage pretty much beyond repair. So he didn't think he could ever live a normal life, and he wanted to to find out how did I do it, and like, what is a soul? Like, he was just like, I don't even think I have a soul. Like, how would I know? And so basically I told him, listen, the soul belongs to God. Nobody can take it from you, but you can give it up. You can disconnect yourself from it. So he told me that they had him recorded. When I say they, I mean the people that had abused him and were controlling him. Like, the way it works is that there's always somebody behind the abuser abusing them and keeping them in line, if that makes sense. So he said that they had everything like recorded, and he didn't think he could ever escape. And see, that's how they control people. Once they record you, they own you, and you can only escape through death. And they threaten to release the tapes and the footage they have if you don't cooperate with them. And it's a very difficult thing to escape. And that's why so many people get in it and don't get out of it. So he wanted to know, like, how can you get out of it? Is it possible? And just basic questions about the experience. And although I feel sorry for him, as I feel sorry for every single child victim, we're adults now. We're not, I mean, we're being not me, because I walked away. So those people are being forced and coerced and manipulated and controlled. And it's, at what point do we break free? Like, how do you do that? And that's pretty much what he wanted to talk about. But he didn't, though. He made bad choices. He chose to stay in that life, and he did not escape, and he caused a lot of harm to people. And I think that he chose to be a monster and a disgusting person. He could have all the excuses all day long. Well, they have me on tape, or well this, or well that, or blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't matter. And you made the choice to stay in it. And so you have to pay the consequences.
I can see Ron's got some questions ready on this subject.
But I still think that bringing awareness to how they're controlling people and what they're doing, and letting people know that they've been absolutely lied to. Nobody can buy their soul. You can't sell your soul. The whole thing is a manipulation. The whole thing is a lie. And that's the people that I'm trying to reach, or the people that are lost in it, or the people that are absolute victims like I am. How can you put your mind back together? How can you ever trust again? How could you, which, to tell you the truth, I'm still working on. I'm 55 years old, and I have huge trust issues, because you just are so broken by their manipulative and narcissistic abuse that you just, it's a very difficult healing journey, but it can be done. But the thing is you have to do it yourself. You can't just read a book about it. You have to work on yourself every single day. Healing is a process, but it's absolutely possible. Sean is just one out of so many. I mean, there's so many people this has happened to. And there's so many people out there that are caught in this cycle of abuse, and they're being controlled. And I'm writing my book to bring awareness to it. I'm hoping for a mass exodus from all of these sadistic cults that exist, whether they're in the music industry or in the entertainment industry or wherever. It's a cycle of sickness and evil, and there's so many victims. Sean is just one out of so many. So unfortunately, Sean chose poorly and did horrible things. And like I said, he has to be held accountable for that. But at the same time, I'm sure some people will hate me for saying this, but I care about his soul. I care about all victims, victims from childhood. And, you can go to jail, you can even get the death penalty, but I believe that the soul is eternal until God puts you out. I believe that, in reincarnation and stuff like that. So my focus is really just on educating people how they've been lied to and deceived. And he's a perfect example. He thought that he sold his soul. He never had a soul. What is a soul? Like, when you're that abused as a child, you can't possibly be normal. And here I am being normal. And so he was really interested in how did I accomplish that. And I accomplished that honestly by removing myself from society. I put myself in an ashram. I was meditating all the time. I was living off grid. I was doing a lot of healing through, like, music and dance and stuff like that is very healing. I had worked for the Grateful Dead. I designed their recycling program. So, but in the most part, you have to just dedicate yourself to putting yourself back together, because if you're truly a human soul and an innocent soul, you're not capable of doing these things. You're just not. There's no way. Like you're not capable. So they have to break you down and demonize you, so that literally it's demons that are operating through you. It's demons that can hurt people and get off on the pain and the screams and the whole thing, including, consuming the sacrifice, which I've never been a part of. But that's what they do. And it's because they feed differently. They're different creatures. They're different beings. Like, you have angelic beings, and they're just, full of light and full of love. And they're operating in a realm of higher consciousness. And then you have human souls that are just, here having a human experience. We have highs and we have lows and we have all kinds of things, but it's human. And then you have these demonic souls, or jinn souls, and they are wicked, and they have a completely different way of feeding themselves energetically, physically. They're monsters. And see, the thing is, with jinn and demon, they don't have a physicality. So they want to occupy the human body. So they will torture people until they literally just check out and they become demonized. And people give up their soul, like, little by little. It's not always just this one time, this happened and I don't have a soul anymore. It's like they make deals with, what the jinn want. I don't know if your followers believe in jinn and demons and all that stuff, but what they want is to have a human body to operate out of. And they have different abilities than humans do. Jinn are made out of like an ethereal, smokeless fire, and they move very fast, and they collect knowledge from all over the world. And so a lot of people that are practicing black magic and sorcery, they're dealing with jinn. So they make deals with the jinn, like, give me this information and I'll let you occupy a space in me. So eventually people get completely taken over and they get demonized. And that's how they're able to do these horrible things. And a lot of the victims are just poor, innocent human people. Like the children, it's going to be very hard for me to talk about it without crying. Extremely.
It's all right. Listen, just take a moment, Zara, and I just want to remind people that when you're talking about these horrible things that humans aren't capable of, I just want to remind the side chat, we're not talking about the baseline evils that you read about in the newspaper, the PDF files, and all of that is horrific. All of that is horrific and evil anyway. We're talking about how you ever heard a fox screaming outside at 2 a.m. and the level, if you've never heard that before, the fear that goes through. I remember hearing foxes outside my window as a 9-year-old, crying my eyes out, freaking out. It sounded like someone had thrown someone on a fire outside. So for a human to be able to stand there and cope with the wailing moments of suffering and revel within it. And when I say revel within it, I want you to think of when you think of those gospel choirs and they're all singing and they're doing their preaching and it's this unison and it's high energy. Imagine the other side of the coin now, okay? Where it's that level of high energy and, worship in this agonizing, twisted end. So please understand when Zara's talking about, oh, humans can't possibly do these things. We're talking about that level of monster. We're not talking about the surface level horrible humans. They're still horrible too, but we're talking about something that is so far beyond you being able to even palate the thought of, as opposed to acknowledging the reality of as a regular human. So I just wanted to give you a moment there, Zara, and just reiterate that for you.
Oh, thank you so much for making that clear. Because look, there's horrible human behavior like PDF files and all kinds of stuff, but that is, it's horrible, but it's in the norm of a human capacity, right? To choose evil or self-gratification. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like you say, this high choir. They're filled with ecstasy. They're just absolutely delighting in it and
Yep.
rejoicing, and it's feeding them to the highest. I mean, it's incomprehensible. And they're just they occupy the human body, but it's not human behavior at all. And I really do believe in spiritual warfare, that we are at war, and human bodies is a vessel, not just for your own soul, but for, you can channel, angelic kind of energy, or you can channel demonic energy, but people are literally fighting over your vessel. There's a war going on, not just in the heavens and not just in the outer world, but inside of you. And they affect your mind. They try to, there's so much brainwashing and desensitizing to this demonic behavior, and to over sexualization from a young age. And the children that have been abused, they become addicted to sex. They have to have it. When you awaken a child's sexuality, which is what they do intentionally, they get them addicted to it. And that's why there's so much, I'm allowed to say sex addiction going on in these circles. And it's exactly what you said. It's incomprehensible.
Yeah, we are long lost best friends, Zara, and you just don't know it yet. Like, I'm telling you, you are preaching what we have been. I mean, I literally talk about what you're talking about almost every single day, Monday or Friday on this channel, on my shows. And I refer to it as the cabal, this unseen force that just has a grasp on the world, that preys on the younglings, shall we say, just for
The
the layman's
innocence.
term. The innocence. Yeah, it's innocence, 100%. Can I ask you one thing about survivors that you've seen throughout your awful journey through? How prevalent is DID and disassociation within the survivors? Because
You have to dissociate.
yeah,
You cannot survive if you don't disassociate. But they give you this drug called scolopamine, and that just, look, there's two ways that they do it. They either, with the drug and with their magic, they can cast your soul out of your body and literally lock you outside of yourself, and then fill you up with demons and have the demons operate. And so that's a state of being that's a disassociative state. So whether you're bound and being abused and you're in a disassociative state, or they're manipulating you to do things, through the drugs or whatever that you would never do, you're in a disassociative state because they've locked you outside of yourself.
oh yeah, I'm very familiar with scopamine. Very, very familiar with it
It was
all.
given to me from the time I was a child. It's
That's
just,
wild.
it's a highly developed medicine.
But is it still, are you still seen as having free will? At spirit realm?
You have no will at all.
Well, you see, there's
You're a puppet.
a certain level where free will is important in some cases of these rituals, where it's more important for you to be offering yourself over than you to be dragged kicking and screaming in some cases. Am I right?
Well, I think that some people willingly give up their soul and they participate. So they don't necessarily need the drugs anymore, and they are willing to do it. Some
Okay.
people get really turned on by it and they choose that path. The drugs are usually for the people that are not
Unwilling.
willing to
I'm with you.
submit.
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah, no, I'm following you. I'm following along with you 100%. That makes perfect sense, of course.
Yeah, so I was one of the people that absolutely refused to cooperate with any of this. So they sent me to a special school for elite children. And for 2 years, from 14 to 16, they ritualistically abused us. And they were trying to change us to get us to be submitted so that we could return to our families and, participate. So I was one of the people that just was a rebel, and there was no way I was ever going to participate. So people like me, we're the ones that get drugged and used as victims. And this is actually what Sean had went through. He was originally a victim. And like I said, although he's made horrible choices, I think that we can't just look at the consequence or the outcome of the behavior. I'm interested in the root of the behavior. How did this person turn into a monster? How did he just wake up one day and I'm a monster?
I agree.
You know?
That's what drew me to the worst and the most horrible minds in the world. What made them that way? What is the root cause? And yeah, we're on the same wavelength here. But Sean, circle us back, because I've side quested this quite heavily. So if you want to pull us back on the track here, mate.
Well, no, you have to keep me on track, because I can go all over the.
Zara, I've got ADHD and I'm on the spectrum, so don't be looking at me to keep anything. I interrupt myself. Okay,
buckle up, everybody. Buckle up.
So yeah, you were finishing the Sean Combs story, and we've got a question from one of the viewers about it, and her name is Sky Spirit, and she wants to ask you: do you think Sean had opened his soul to a sex demon that compelled him to commit depraved acts to feed its energy?
Absolutely. Absolutely, all day, every day. That's what they live on. These impure spirits, these perverted, lustful spirits, it's all a part of the sadism, because a regular person can't operate in that way. So they need these filthy, unclean spirits, these jinn, these demon, however you want to label them, these sex spirit, the lust. They have lust magic where let me tell you how professional this shit is, okay? Because they have doctors on site. They actually try to keep people alive in a state of absolute pain as long as they can. So they can keep harvesting that opposite and equal reaction, which would be pleasure. It is highly professional. It's not random what they do.
All right. So how did the conversation with Sean conclude? And did he ever reach out to you again?
So the way it concluded, actually, we talked about repentance. And he wanted to know, what is the procedure of reclaiming your soul? And I said, well, first you have to stop what you're doing and you have to repent. You have to take responsibility for the harm that you committed. And even if you were abused as a child, you're now an adult, you're making the decisions to continue on in this behavior. You have to repent. I'm a very big believer in repentance. You have to be just disgusted with yourself and cry out to God and be like, I am so sorry. Help me, save me, repent, and stop that behavior. And the path of healing is going to take the rest of your life, maybe a couple of lifetimes, because this is some serious shit. But if you, in the moment that you take back your soul and you become strong, these demons, they can't infiltrate you anymore. There has to be an agreement. And even though that some people are drugged into that agreement, tortured into that agreement, abused into that agreement, there still is an agreement. And so you have to not agree anymore. And you just have to fight it and to do the work. And so we were talking about what that looks like, what repentance looks like. And at one point, to tell you the truth, he did cry out. He did see himself. I mean, but this was 30 years ago. And he was a very disturbed, torn person. And I honestly feel really sorry for him, because I have a very good idea of what he's been through. And I really hope that he repents and that he can reclaim his soul, and that he can work on healing and make amends to all the people he hurt. And that's the first thing you have to do. For yourself, you have to repent. For the world, you have to stop doing that behavior. And to your victims, you absolutely have to make amends. And really, there's no compensation. There's no way that anybody could ever truly compensate you or make amends to you if they've abused you in that way. But I also believe in God, and I believe in holiness and purity and integrity. And so if you can get back with that part of yourself, then it's kind of like that magic pill where all of a sudden you feel that pure sweet light again. You're not demonized. And I know what I was saying that I want to continue. So there's two things that they do. They either bind you outside of yourself, so that makes you disassociated, or they lock you inside of yourself, literally, so that you're like in a prison. They take your essence and they bind you inside of yourself so that you're muted and paralyzed. And then they demonize you, and so that you're either being abused or doing whatever, Lord only knows, whatever they're commanding you to do. Because when they give you the drug, you're just a puppet for the people that are giving you the drug and controlling you. So they either send you outside yourself so that you're disassociated, or they bind you inside of yourself, which is much, much worse, because then you feel everything. Like, I was bound inside myself, so I couldn't fight back. I just had to take the abuse and witness it. And it's a very insanely horrible thing to experience. So when you're in the recovery process, whether you were bound outside of yourself or bound inside of yourself, you have to, as a victim, you have to realize that was not me. And that has nothing to do with me. I'm a pure soul, and I'm an innocent soul, and I would never do anything like this, and I would never, and you don't enjoy it. So that's how you tell. If you're enjoying it, well, then you're with the dark side. And if you're being completely traumatized and having the most horrific experience of your life, then you're of the light, you're innocent. So for the victims who are completely traumatized, you have to realize that it's not you. You have to get back to yourself. You have to realize, I'm this beautiful, sweet, pure, innocent light, and I have nothing to do with that. And you have to spiritually, like, wash yourself in your own essence, your own divine light, and just keep healing yourself. You have to work on you have to reprogram the mind, because they program your mind. While you're on this drug, they do subconscious work. These people are professional master psychologists. They do all kinds of experiments on people. They know what they're doing. It's not some random thing. And they program your mind. And while you're on this drug, whatever you say, it sticks inside your mind. They're programming you. So in the healing process, aside from, if you're an abuser, repenting and making amends, as a victim, you have to realize, well, I was used as a puppet. That's not me. And now I have to wash my soul clean with my own pure light, and return to the essence of pure light inside of me, get all that garbage out that's not mine energetically. And then my mind has to be reprogrammed. So that's, there's a lot of people out there, they don't talk about any of this sadistic abuse, but they do talk about, like, reprogramming the mind, like Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's an amazing person. He has a lot of information about how to reprogram your mind. So healing takes cleaning yourself energetically, reprogramming your mind, and, working on learning how to regulate your emotions. And because they get off on these intense emotions, they do horrible things you can't imagine. And they're trying to get, because they're feeding off of you. They're vampires. They're trying to get as much emotion out of you that they can. They do horrible things to people, just to get that emotion out so that they can, feed off of it. So you have to figure out how to regulate your emotions. If you've been a victim, it's very difficult to learn how to regulate your emotions, because, first of all, any innocent person is going to want justice. And when you realize what had happened to you, you're so violated and so angry with the people that did this to you. You want justice. You want, And so these are very strong emotions. So you have to, cleanse yourself, reprogram your mind. You have to work on regulating your emotions, and you have to figure out how to trust people again. And that's the biggest thing, is they break your trust and they make it that you just can't trust people. Good, and you can smile in my face and I can think that you're a light-filled person that would never hurt me. And that's what they do. They wear masks of light and they pretend that, they lure you in and they catch you and they betray you and they break your trust. And I think that's the hardest thing to heal from.
You got a question from Laureen. And regarding the drug, I'm just going to call it Scope, because I think if we say it too many times, YouTube is going to have a problem. So the question is, who sacrificed Sean Combs when he was 4? And do you believe he is being sacrificed again? And can Scope be aerosolized, put in an aerosol, or put in food or water?
Okay, so the first part is, what is Sean? Who was there? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Him when he was 4.
I wasn't there. I wouldn't know. He didn't tell me.
Do you believe he is being sacrificed again?
Absolutely, 100%. And he knew it was going to happen.
And can Scope be aerosolized or put in food or water?
Yes, it can be aerosolized. It's a powder. They put it in a syrup. They can put it in your drink. They can give it to you in so many ways. And the scariest thing about it is that you don't remember. It has an effective amnesia. So they can give it to you. They can take control of you. They can tell you to go rob a bank and give them the money. You'll go rob the bank and give them the money and go home and never remember that it happened.
Yeah.
And that's well known.
Yeah. Vice documentary on YouTube. The most dangerous DURG in the world. That's the title of the documentary. 2 documentary filmmakers go to where the scope trees grow wild. They do a full investigation. They end up terrifying themselves. They interview a bunch of people who've fallen victim. They interview the ladies of the evening. They use it to, tell you to go empty your bank account and all this stuff. There is nothing we can say about Scope, right? That can even put it into context. You have to go and watch this full documentary. And saying that, I'm saying that like you don't know firsthand. Of course, Zara knows firsthand exactly what it's like. But if you really are interested, after this, go and watch that documentary. It will terrify you and blow your mind completely. It really will. It really will.
You got a question from Jasper. Zara, have you found an explanation as to why God would allow this to happen to you and people like Sean Combs?
So I can only speak for myself and what I believe. I believe that God created humans to have free will. We're not angels that praise him all the time. And in this realm of free will, people use their free will to cause harm to other people. They make conscious choices to harm people. And I don't think that we should blame God for the free will of men. So if he gave us free will, he can't, God does interfere, but he can't interfere and stop everybody. Otherwise, what's the point of having free will? So what I learned through my healing, because I used to blame God a lot. There's a part of the healing process where just like, what kind of, maniac are you, God? Like, I don't want to have anything to do with a God that would allow this to happen. Like, I went through that, but then I realized God gave us free will, and I can't blame God for the free will of men. And you have to hold the man responsible. And even though there's other powers and energies involved, in the end, it's people's free will that's making this horrible stuff happen. So that's how I experience it.
So you've been asked by Phoenix if you think that Beyonce is currently trying to repent.
I wouldn't know. I could talk to her though. I hope so. I have, you see, you have to understand, I don't even have a TV. I don't know. Here, let me talk a little bit more about myself. I left the industry in 1996. There's a lot of people that know who I am. And I talked about the Wu-Tang Clan, and I want to talk about them some more because I have so much respect for them. The RZA started his own label. He wasn't down with any of this bullshit going on in the industry. And I'm going to tell you something you guys probably don't know, but you remember the whole beef between Sean and Biggie and Tupac? You guys are aware of that story?
Yeah.
Hell
All
yeah,
right.
a little bit.
Okay, so I was a part of that story. Originally, I was only a few blocks away when they shot Tupac up in the elevator. It was a Mary J. Blige session, and she had called him up and told him to come lay some tracks down. And they catched him in the elevator and they shot him up. Now I knew Tupac. He was a friend of mine. So with this whole East Coast, West Coast thing, there came a time for, to squash it because, a lot of people were really getting hurt, killed. And so Snoop and Warren G and some people from the West Coast had come to New York, and there were some people from the East Coast, and we were trying to kind of to just squash it and to make peace. So a part of that peace process was there were certain people from the East Coast that were completely against Sean, not just for the beef with Tupac, but his kind of partying, the things that he was doing, like people like the Wu-Tang Clan, totally not into Sean Combs parties. Okay, not at all, not even a little bit. So if you know the video "Hit 'Em Up" that Tupac did, I actually was the stage designer for that.
Nice, iconic.
Yeah, listen to this. The song "Hit 'Em Up." If you look at it, the Wu-Tang Clan are in that video.
All right,
when they're all laying down in the circle and you just see their faces, there's Method Man in there. Method Man is in there. Killer Priest is in there. I think is it You God? I can't remember. You have to look at it. Now, people don't know that. People just don't know that. But if you look at it, also when they're on the stage, when Tupac says "fuck peace," Method Man is in there in the background. And the reason the Wu-Tang got in on this video was to show solidarity with Tupac. I was in solidarity with Tupac. If you want to know the truth, I'm not really a fan of Sean Combs or Biggie. I didn't like their style, and I didn't really hang out with them. I never went to a Sean Combs party. But anybody that calls me up and says, "Ruhawk, can you please, talk to me about this shit and help me in any way?" Of course, I'm going to be there for anybody. I would be there for my worst enemy.
Is this the part in the video where the Wu-Tang is in the background in this mirrored part here, Zara?
No. I mean, they might be. I can't see, but no. Go to the part. I have a picture of it on my Facebook.
Sorry,
and I circled their faces.
I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to this specific track, and that's a great little factoid. So we'll talk about it afterwards because I'd love to know more about that.
I should have sent you a picture. I can send you a picture where I circled it. There's 2 times.
Awesome.
Where they're laying down and it's just their faces. And then also in the background when Tupac he says "fuck peace." At that point where they're all kind of wilding in the background, Method Man is in there. And the reason they're in there is because they were completely against everything that Sean Combs was doing. The Wu-Tang Clan was not down with any of this industry bullshit at all, and they started their own label. And they, middle fingers up to the music industry, and they made it. And I designed their logo. And so here's the thing about taking it back to my story.
You designed Wu-Tang's logo. You designed Wu-Tang's logo. Sorry, I'm fanboy derailing this. That's wild.
I do it. And so let me tell you the story behind it though, because I didn't get credit for it. So what had happened was so I told you how my mother was underage, but just slightly, not in like a weird way. It wasn't like some pedophile or like creepy thing. It was just a law that drew a line in between 2 people, unfortunately. So originally my identity was hidden to cover that up, as my father was threatened to go to jail, and there's still elders in Jamaica that have recognized me, that know the story and validated me. My DNA proves everything. But get back on track. Where was I at?
Wu-Tang.
Oh, so that was, right. So
Wu-Tang.
that's where my identity was hidden originally. Then, before I was with my father in Germany, okay, when he was very sick, I went for a visit, and he basically said I can't go to jail if I'm dead, and he didn't want my identity hidden anymore. And he told me he had 17 children. He told me, it wasn't the first time he told me that, but he said that it didn't matter if his children were adopted or biological. He took care of all of Rita's children, even knowing that some of them weren't his, knowing some of them were Jacket's. He didn't care. He said that we're all one tribe. He didn't want my identity to be hidden, and he wanted me to bring all of the children together. So my father has 17 children, not 11 or whatever is written on the internet. He probably has more, but he wanted all of us to be united. So he had told everybody, including Rita, that this is what he wanted. Now, she didn't fulfill his wishes at all. She continued to hide my identity, and I want to tell you why. But first, I want to tell you that there's written testimony by Bunny Livingston Whaler, by Neville Garrett. My Uncle Peter Tosh talked about it. And I'm telling you, also my father, there's recorded interviews where he said he never married Rita. He didn't remember marrying her. The day before he was supposed to go to Delaware, they drugged him with this drug, and they did this Obia spell of amnesia, and he married Rita. And so this was going on for a long time. So my father didn't want our identities to be hidden. When he passed away, she didn't care. My father was taking care of over like 40 families. She stopped. She's got $600 million in the bank. People in Trenchtown and all over Jamaica are still suffering from food insecurity. One of the projects I'm working on is called Bless Up Trenchtown, because we really need to get those greenhouses back up and running and give the people back, some self-sustainability. But after my father died, Rita continued to hide my identity, and then she convinced me to go along with it. She basically manipulated me as a young teenager, that if the world found out that I was Bob Marley's daughter, they would all want to know who my mother is. And as soon as they found out that my mother was underage, that it would ruin the reputation of the family. Nobody would buy his music. The Melody Makers, Ziggy and the Melody Makers, wouldn't be able to, perform and make money. And by the way, I wrote Tomorrow People, which won them their first Grammy. I was their songwriter. I wrote most of Stephen and Damien's music, came from my poem book, and then he patois it up. But I didn't receive credit for it, and I couldn't receive any credit because Rita had me convinced that this is what I need to do. I'm the hero of the family, and so I was keeping my identity hidden. So when I drew the Wu-Tang Clan logo, I couldn't take credit for it. And Maurice, originally he drew a severed head, and he drew it like on this, I think it was like his math book from school. I don't know if you remember back in the day, we used to cover our books with like paper bags. So he had drawn, he was like, in the projects and just on this cold concrete floor, and just, he like literally channeled this prophecy. I'm not going to get into it, but the shit is mad deep. So the Wu-Tang Clan was going to use it as a logo, but RZA was like, nah, man, we need something that's like, easily reproduced, that we can put it on shirts and hats. So this is like way, way, way back in the day before, they put out their first album. So they asked me, because I was always drawing stuff. So they asked me, they said, yo, Ruha, can you, come up with something? So I was like, yeah, cool. I was also into all that Shaolin and Bruce Lee stuff, So I drew the Wu-Tang logo. Now, Maurice didn't want to take credit for it. Maurice's rap name is Mathematics. So Maurice didn't want to take credit for it, and I actually forced him to do it. I was like, I can't take credit for anything, because I was hiding my identity. I couldn't take credit for any of my work, and I'm fixing that now. I'm taking credit for all of my work. But just so you know, the Wu-Tang Clan was totally against all that industry bullshit. Yeah. They're the gods. They don't have to bow down to anybody. And I drew their logo, and they're in the Hit 'Em Up video to show solidarity with Tupac, because they
That-
were actually completely against what Sean Combs was doing.
yeah,
And
well,
Sean
listen,
Combs was doing it all the way back then. It was he grew up this way. He was locked
Yeah.
into this society from the time he was a child.
yeah. Well, if it's going to be hard to top the I drew the Wu-Tang Clan logo story so far in 2025. That has to be the best side quest story from all of the interviews so far. I mean, that's like that is one of the most epic things I've ever heard. And you're a very, 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 very interesting lady, Zara, I have to say. And I mean, just your knowledge on the cabal and the elites and all of this stuff that is showered in mystery is so on point, and you know you've lived it, right? And then to hear the stories about your dad and the stories about the music industry that have this other positive side to it, you know, when you're talking about the Wu-Tang Clan, and you talked about how they made it, right? But it's interesting because when we look at the music of Wu-Tang and then you compare it to someone like Diddy, I could never understand why the famous were the famous, right? And why the people like Wu-Tang, they're iconic. They're icons, right? But they're not mainstream icons, if you know what I'm saying. They were never, you know, but they should have been. The talent was there, but there was a blockade of, if you do not cross the line, you do not get to continue to the next level. But there's just every 1,000 bands that turn down the contract and try and make it, there's maybe one or two that do, because of the talent and the fan base behind them. And Wu-Tang are one of them. And it's testament to that. And I always say to people, think about how many people with no talent are famous and how many people get one album, right? They get one album and it's incredible. And then it's like they fall off the face of the earth, or somebody does a movie and it's an amazing movie. And then for some reason, they're never in a movie ever again, right? And it's like, what's going on? And it's when you apply conspiracy that it makes sense. When the cabal algorithm is applied, it starts to make sense. And you're just blowing my mind right now. It's just,
well, they're controlling it, and they if you're not practicing sadism, then you're not moving forward. The reason the Wu-Tang Clan was able to move forward, not just because they're incredible talent. I mean, these people are amazing, but because of their strength. And they just, you know, won't bow down. They won't give up their integrity. They don't have to, so they don't. So it takes a great strength.
Yeah.
And they just storm-peated the whole industry. And you know, they had their fan base were us people in the streets. Originally, it was, you know, all the ghetto people, the project people. Their music affect. I lived in the projects. My family took everything from me and threw me to the streets, and I landed, you know, in the projects and with the Wu-Tang Clan. So all of these people that have this suffering and have this, you know, the best music actually comes out of suffering. And so all of their life experience, they just had the whole street.
And then you just sprinkle in a little bit of Shaolin monk and a little bit of kung fu, you know, clipped movie from the 1960s, and magic happens, right? Okay. I need to just ask another question, right? So, can you where did you ever have any experience with Ice Cube? Right, Ice Cube was at a concert and he said that he was never involved in any of that Diddy party, shit. Did you ever have any run-ins with Ice Cube, or know anything?
No, I wish. I heard very good things about him.
That's what I'd heard.
Yeah. So what I want to tell you about me is I don't have a TV. I've lived off grid. I've lived off grid most of my life. To this day, I don't have a TV. I don't know what's going on in the world.
Yeah, you're not missing much. I'm not gonna lie.
Back then, so I like people. You know, the things I know are the things I experienced.
Yeah.
So I've heard of other people and I've heard of other things, and I have, of course, enjoyed a little bit of their music. If it was in that era, then I was like, you know, in there. But when I left in '96, I didn't look back.
Yeah.
I walked away. I didn't look back. So I don't know. Even a lot of the people that are popular today, I don't know any of their songs. I don't know
Yeah.
who
Yeah,
they
I'm with
are.
you. Well, if you hear of Australia being on fire, it's winter, and if LA's on fire, it's spring. That's usually, if you don't have a TV and you know you need to judge the world by the world events that you hear being talked about. That's usually the way. But I just want to say it's just your story is amazing. But Sean, I'll hand you back to the main quest and not the side quest for some questions, mate.
Yeah. So Zara,
you.
you know, earlier you mentioned about the circumstances of your father's death. You touched on it, but people are asking if you could elaborate on that, if that's not too traumatic for you, because it's suspicious, isn't
So
it? You think,
everything I'm doing, from the book that I'm writing, to the Bless Up Trenchtown project that we're working on, we're doing it in my father's name to honor him. He was a man of integrity. He was the best. He refused to bow down to it. He was like, just like, are you mad? Are you insane? There's no way. Like, he just refused. Peter also refused. And I mean, I don't know how deep I want to get into the story, but you know, my uncle was brutally murdered. Um, his wife was also shot twice in the head and survived. And I've spoken to her, and quite a few times. It's, you know, the SHIT is real. Okay. So they took my father out. Um, Now I remember him having an injury on his toe, but as a kid, they weren't, you know, telling me what was really going on, you know. But as a teenager, um, there was talk amongst the family, and as an adult, you know, I got more information from other people. So what I've gathered, what I understand, is that my father was given some kind of soccer shoe that had some kind of uh, like spike in it, and when he put it on, it injected his toe with some kind of cancer cells or something like that. But then, if you read what my uncle Bunny Livingston Whaler wrote, who's, you know, part of the Whalers, he wrote that it was more than that. They were giving him radioactive ash. Um, and they really thought that he would die much quicker. It was a very aggressive cancer. But my father was so healthy. He ate Ital. He had a clean mind. He had a clean heart. He was a pure soul. He was always exercising. So they gave him this cancer that they thought would take him out, you know, like quickly. And he lived for a couple of years with it because he was such a healthy person. My father was completely against all of this stuff. I mean, I just can't even put into terms how strong he stood against it. He was a man of integrity, and he didn't give up his integrity. And I'm very proud of him. So the books that I'm writing are all dedicated to him. On my father's 80th birthday, I demanded that my family make a trust for Trenchtown for $1 million. Now they have over $600 million in the bank, and they've lived it up for 30, 40 years. You know, my father, he says his life is for the people. They asked him what he did with his money. He gave it away. He was supporting so many people. So people talk about, you know, his siblings carrying on the legacy and doing such a great job. Well, no, they're not. His legacy was not to have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank and to go riding around in Bentleys and living it up and throwing away $100,000 a night in a club. That was not my father's legacy. My father legacy was for the people, to help the people. And I spent a lot of time talking to my father. As a child, he never spoke to me like I was a child. He talked to me like I was an old soul. And he wasn't just concerned with, you know, the rat race and how to break people's minds free from mental slavery and all that. He was concerned with how do you break the chains of poverty? How do you bless the people up out of the rat race? How do you make them self-sustainable so that they can, you know, just get out of the rat race? So he spent a lot of time thinking about that. And, you know, with all of this money and all of this time, I think that more should have been done. I'm not going to judge my family. I'm not going to insult them because they do charity. but they have not necessarily followed in my father's footsteps. And the legacy of my father was not to just go around and sing these old songs and bless yourself up. So we're trying to raise money for Trenchtown, which is honestly one of my most important works that I'm doing. Aside from my books, those are side notes as far as I'm concerned. There's greenhouses in Trenchtown and 9 Mile and all over Jamaica that are, you know, that we can, they're in disarray. We can fix them back up and give the people the tools to become a little bit more self-sufficient. We want to do this like traveling music and arts program that goes around to all the impoverished places in Jamaica, and gives out musical instruments and art supplies to all the kids, and, you know, some free lessons. We want to get like building materials and help people fix up their homes. Well, first we want to work with all the charities that are already established. So I had this big crazy idea that my family is gonna you know, donate $1 million to this trust for Trenchtown, which they have not. And we were going to bless up the charities that are already there, and then we were going to start these other programs in my father's name to honor him for his 80th birthday. So when it comes to my father, I just have to say he's a clean soul, he's a pure soul, he's a higher mind vibration man. He stood his ground, and he died for it. He was taken out, and they that's what they do. If you don't cooperate with them, they will do bad things to teach you a lesson, to punish you. And if you're outspoken, they'll take you eye for thread, by a lot of people. But I don't care. If you want to kill me, kill me. My soul is eternal. I'll die when God takes me. You don't have the power over God to take my life. So I don't know if that answers the question about my father, but he was just an amazing man. And I want to pick up where he left off and finish what he started. And if my family doesn't want to give the money to bless up the people, which is like the smallest thing that they could do as far as I'm concerned, then we want to call out people like Keanu Reeves. If you're listening, you know, you never know who's listening. Come and help us bless up these people. You know, these people, and it's not just giving them things. You know, we have to reinstate their self-worth and their value. They've been abandoned. You know, these are the people that were stolen from Africa, and they never made it to any of the slave places. They were just abandoned in Jamaica. And then my father came, and he was blessing up the people, and his music was all about, you know, their struggle. And so he was seen as this, you know, national hero, and he was taking care of the people. But he refused to submit to the music industry. They took him out, and the people got abandoned. My family didn't fulfill the calling upon my father's soul. So my mission in life, or one of them, one of my most important missions in life, is to fulfill the calling upon my father's soul, to pick up where he left off and finish what he started. And something that my father said to me was that one man can't fix what 1 million men broke. It's going to take all of us together. Like, my father never wanted to be idolized. Some people call him God, some people call him a prophet. That he could prophesize. He could open up. He was a very high spiritual person, deeply connected and committed to goodness. And so he could prophesize, but that doesn't make him a biblical prophet. And there's interviews where they asked him, "Are you a prophet?" And he's like, "Nah, man." So there's a lot of like idolatry going on of my father that I know he would agree with. And he was, you know, a man of the people. His life was for the people. And so I wanna use my platform to finish that calling that my father had. So anybody out there with the extra $1 million, you know, come and bless up Trenchtown.
So you've got a question that ties
Sure.
into that, and it is: do you think Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, and Jimi Hendrix were deleted for similar reasons, not wanting to partake in cults, rituals, etc.?
Well, I didn't know them personally, so I can't speak about like from personal firsthand knowledge, but yes, that's what they do. And not just them. I believe that that even Whitney Houston wanted to get out. Michael Jackson wanted to get out. These people, Michael Jackson was abused from the time he was a child. And I think that he was trying to warn us, and he was trying to get out, and when you try to get out, usually the only way is through death. And I also think that it's possible that some people have faked their death. And so let's talk about the tunnels. There is an inner world that exists.
Yeah, let's describe the tunnels, because you have knowledge of them, don't you?
Yes, I do. They're real. They're very real. There's a whole world down there, and it's all connected.
How did you first learn about that world?
So that one of the houses that I was raised in had an entrance to the tunnels, and it was in the basement and it was covered up. And they said, oh, back in these days, we were all taught in school that, we had these like practice drills that if the Russians were going to bomb us, to get under the desk, and they had little cartoons about, stuff like that. And even the school that I went to had entrance to tunnels, but they said it was for if ever there was a war with Russia. But they had a diabolical reason behind that, and that was to bring children there and harm them. And the thing is that so many of these children that were abused, they don't really remember it because they were drugged. And sometimes you get like little snippets and pieces or bad dreams, or and there's so many victims out there, these poor children. And that's another reason why I'm trying to break this sadistic chain, this of the practice of sadism. I'm trying to break those chains so people can be free from it, because so many people are being abused on a daily basis. It is just, it's overwhelming to think about all these poor children. They're intentionally hurting them. You have to understand, you have to take away this whole idea of SRA, of satanic ritual, because it's so much deeper than that. And they put that out into the world. It's a puppet show. The Illuminati and all the stuff that you see in the music industry, that's a puppet show for what's really going on. And what's really going on is sadism, and the people that are running it have been fully demonized. And there is a world underneath. They have their own education system. They teach things that you can't believe. You just can't understand. They're teaching sadism. They're teaching and rewarding children for, hold on, I want to get I wrote notes so I could say the right thing, but what is it called? CA, no, not CA.
CP.
What is, hold on. I've never had to do this, so I'm trying to like take
Yeah,
notes.
welcome to the world of the algorithm.
Yeah, so all of that, CP, CA, all of that stuff, they're you can't even, you wouldn't believe me. You just think I'm the craziest person in the world, but they are doing this to a lot of children and then putting them back into their life as if nothing happened. And all of a sudden you have all these people that have serious anxiety. They have what is that called when borderline personality disorder. You have people that are just, all of these things. Who was it? It was Roseanne Barr who said that she was in a psych ward and it was filled with people who were survivors of the SRA. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that is just literally like just a layer of it. If you take it deeper and you understand the root of it is sadism, that's what's driving it. And it's a demonic force that's occupying human bodies, that's doing this stuff. They have an underworld, and they have schools for R word, where they literally teach children how to R word, and they reward them for R wording. They turn them into monsters. They turn them into psychopaths. You just can't believe.
Well,
but
listen,
so many people have actually been there, and they don't know that they've been there. They don't remember. They have, because with this drug scopamine, it causes amnesia. And then you have these people that are just written off as crazy, and they're really suffering a very, very, very big trauma. And one of the reasons that I'm writing this book is to reach these people, to help them understand how to put themselves back together.
I just want you to know, Zara, you are probably on one of the few channels on YouTube where our community, our entire audience, since this channel was founded, has been on the side of victims of SRA and we work with a guy, John Wedger, who's an policeman whistleblower in this country. So I don't want you to ever think that you're going to say something and anyone's ever going to think you or anybody else is crazy. I want you to know this is one of the safest places for already having an partially educated audience on the realities of the world and the veils that are over it. So I just think the information that you're relaying, the re-traumatization that you can say you're not going through, but it's on some level you definitely are. I just want to say thank
Very
you from
difficult.
myself and
Very,
everyone.
very difficult.
I understand that 100%.
But it has to be done. It has to be done because we can't stay locked down in this bound to this evil. We have to break free. As a human collective, we have to keep raising our consciousness. We have to keep evolving, and we have to break the chains, not just of the sadistic abuse, but of the poverty. And see, here's another thing that we're not talking about are these humiliation rituals. This is huge, what's going on. And with this opposite and equal reaction business, they intentionally keep people in poverty because the opposite and equal reaction of poverty is extreme wealth. So the wealthy are intentionally keeping the people impoverished. So we have to break the chains of poverty. We have to break the chains of mental slavery. We have to set the children free by first bringing an awareness to them about what is really going on. And it's much more than this puppet show in the music industry. That is just a mask of what's really going on.
So Pam wants to know, why do they use kids for sacrifices?
So it's about innocence. You see, these people are evil and they have no light of their own, and so they're constantly trying to rob the light of innocence. And what's more innocent than a child? Children have a much more powerful light of innocence, and that's they're consuming it. Think of it in like narcissistic terms. So there's people that are considered like empty core people. They don't have they have an empty core. So they're the vampires. They're the people that are always feeding off of you and manipulating you and trying to get your emotions out of you because they don't know how to sustain themselves. So they're feeding off of you. And then you have people that are self-sustaining people energetically, and they sustain themselves. Like, I'm a self-sustaining person. I don't need to feed off of another person. So in the world of innocence, you're sustaining yourself. You have your own light. You're of the innocence. And then you have the people that are not. They are empty beings. So when the demons, when a person gets demonized, the demon doesn't have a light, a source, a light source. So they take the children and they rob them of their light. And it's more than just in the ritual and the sacrifice. It's you have to understand, it's in the everyday life. The way that they're manipulating people and abusing people, they're constantly robbing us of the light. Like, you hear how they say that these stadiums, they're just places where they're harvesting energy. It's real. The people that are running this whole sadistic thing, they have things, they have technologies. Like, you hear about, oh, the government has technologies and they don't release them for, decades, until, they use them first, and they keep them from the public, and then later on we get them. That's real. They have technology you can't even begin to imagine, that we don't even comprehend exists, except maybe in like, Marvel movies or something like that. But it's real. It's very real.
Plus, children haven't gone through the corruption of life. Somebody who, if you were to drag somebody into a basement and tried to put the fear of a demonic presence into them, as an adult, you have your faith, your religion, your life experiences to fall back on mentally. If you've got a 6 or 7-year-old terrified in a basement and you say there's a huge, do you know how quickly that belief and fear sets in? And when we talk about magic and rituals and wish and belief and intent, when you have that absolute purity of fear, and I mean, it has not been corrupted with the comforts of a developed mind to try and rationalize. Rationality isn't even in the picture when you're a child. And it is I often say to people, try and imagine the amount of energy in your last 30 seconds if someone is trying to unalive you and you're fighting for your life. The
Well,
last
they're
30,
living off that. That they're trying to harvest that.
I know,
Exactly. That's their food. That's their
I
fuel.
know. But the thing is, that last 30 seconds can be repeated thousands of times in someone.
Yeah.
It's going to sound so weird. If you've ever seen the movie Deadpool, where they put the guy inside that chamber and they shut off the oxygen and they just about let him suffocate, and then they turn it on, and then it turn it off, and they just keep that going. That is what I'm talking about.
Me too.
It's
They
crazy.
have doctors. They have doctors on standby that try to bring them back to life, and they keep them on the edge of death, on the edge of pain.
Yes.
Excruciating pain. These people are masters of inflicting pain. They inflict pain into your nervous system so that these people are in shock and pain, and then they're harvesting the opposite and equal reaction. And they like you're saying, they bring them to the worst place, and then they bring them back, and they do again and again, and they hold them in place.
And again, you've got to understand, we think about that, but as an adult, we'd be rationalizing this. You would find a place in your mind to try and separate what is happening. As a child, stuck in a perpetual loop of the worst moment for a human to exist in on repeat. This is the system that, I mean, like I say, that hearing you speaking about this, this is what I've been speaking about for the last few months, and trying to make people understand magic and energy and harvesting and fear and this consumption of, I often say, right, the world needs good and bad, but there's no place for evil. Okay, without good and bad, the wolf doesn't hunt down the deer. Okay, because I hate to tell you, one person in that scenario is having a terrible time, the other one is just having his dinner. Okay, so we need good and bad, but there's no place for evil. Okay, balance is necessary, but the balance and the scales tip. But I often say this, Zara, if we all gathered in a field and the 1% who control the world was standing there against the other 99%, and we just all ran at them, statistically we outnumber them a bagillion to one. Okay,
Absolutely.
So the beauty of this, you're going to walk away from this thinking, I've lost faith in humanity, I don't believe what I've just heard. Well, baby, I've got some good news for you. Okay, us, the good guys, outweigh them so massively. Okay, it's just the stories you hear about them keep you up at night and traumatize you. But just know there are people out there actively pursuing the eradication of this evil. Good and bad has to exist, but evil has no place. And I tell you what, man, if we were neighbors, we'd have a lot of yippee yapping over our garden fence, Zara. I tell you, we'd be like this, yappa, 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 yappa. Because,
well, we have the internet, so
I'm telling
howdy
you, man.
neighbor.
Yeah, listen, when this is over, we're going to have a quick chat, because there's a whole bunch of other things we need to get scheduled.
But I just want to say what you said is so completely accurate, and it's so, I really wasn't sure what to expect. My publicist is amazing, and she said this is the perfect fit for you. And I'm so sorry that I didn't watch you before, but I am kind of a disconnected to what's really going on in the world, other than maybe my narcissistic self, where I'm doing my selfies and I'm posting a little bit about my life and about my Bless Up Trenchtown thing. So I didn't really know that, what to expect, but I trusted my publicist. Her name is Nadea. She's amazing. Okay.
Shout out to Nadea.
Yes.
Brilliant decision. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Great match.
More. Aleph, 1,000,000. And so I'm so relieved to hear that I'm not having to defend myself, because when I try to talk about this in smaller increments, you get a lot of resistance. People don't want to hear that. Oh, you're mad, you're crazy. Well, no, I'm not. I'm a survivor, and what we're talking about, I was a victim of for 2 years, from the age 14 to 16. And to tell you the truth, half the time you're drugged out of your mind, and you're not even like comprehend, like you're just in another world, and it's just so surreal. But when you get out of it, look, I know in the school that I was in, I think about 3 people I know unalive themselves because they just can't live with the memories. You can't separate yourself. Healing is very, very difficult, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Even for someone like Sean Combs, it's possible. And I'm rooting for him to repent and heal, although he might have to do it from a jail cell. But the matter of the soul, to me, is what's important. It's about the soul. And I think that all victims deserve a chance to heal themselves.
Well, once again, I've said this so many times. It's once again, I meet a survivor who's gone through things that we can't even comprehend. And your empathy is far beyond anything I could ever imagine being in a human being. And it's testament to your inability to be corrupted and make what happened to you define you in its evil. And you've really redefined it yourself. And it's incredible. Honestly,
Well, I'm not what happened to me. I'm not, if somebody uses me as a puppet, I'm not the puppet. I'm the me inside the puppet. And so that's in the healing process, you have to realize in victimhood. First of all, people say, oh, don't be a victim. No, I was a victim. Claim your victimhood. You can't heal if you're denying that it ever happened. So in my victimhood, I have to identify the fact that what happened to me isn't me. It doesn't define me. It's not who I am. And I'm not, I don't need to carry that burden upon myself. It's very hard to remove it from yourself and to put yourself back together because they intentionally rip you to shreds and break you down in every way. Like the ritual is just like, maybe 5% of the whole abuse.
Oh, yeah.
You got a question from Alb. What really happened to Peter Tosh? There are so many different stories.
My uncle was such an amazing man. I can talk to you forever about what an amazing man he was. So to be totally honest, he had a pregnant wife that died in a car accident, and they cut the brakes because he refused to offer a sacrifice to get his record deal. And she died, and the baby died, and it destroyed him. But later he found love again, and he married a wonderful, amazing woman. And I don't want to, use names and get, sued for libel, but you can read what my Uncle Bunny Whaler wrote about it. And they basically brutalized him. They tortured him. They beat him for hours and just really they killed him. And his wife was there. She got shot in the head twice, but miraculously survived. And the people that were behind this came back and tried to kill her again. And I'm pretty sure she's starting to come out with her story too. But it's real. These people are very corrupt, and they don't have any respect for human life.
No.
And it means nothing to them to kill somebody, to brutalize them. We're different. We're cut from a different cloth. Life is everything. We do everything we can to protect life, to nurture life. Like if you hear a baby crying, you're gonna go running over. Oh, baby, what's wrong? And shh, baby. These people have a totally different. They're inflicting the pain onto the children. They're just the complete opposite of, if you think about what is good, what is God, what is light. It's love. It's compassion. It's clean. It's beautiful. It's sweet. It's pure. So they're the opposite. They're filthy. They're filled with vile, they're just the complete opposite. And so they can do things that we can't even comprehend. Where we're trying to nurture and protect life, they get off on destroying it. They're literally getting off on destroying life.
Michelle wants to know, how do these elites get a hold of celebrity kids?
Well, usually the celebrity opens the door for the whole family to be harmed.
Generational in some cases, right?
Yeah, so generational. Also, you have a lot of people that are young stars. Look at all these young actresses and actors, child actors and actors, not just the music industry. So everybody's passing them around and drugging them and using them in bad ways. I mean, even just look at, I don't know if I'm allowed to say names, but there's plenty of people out there. You don't have to stretch your imagination too far, of these child musicians and child actors, and they're all completely unstable people. They are unstable and make bad choices, and you know, and it's because of this abuse. There's no, and this is what my book is about. I'm trying to reach these people. They need a healing. They need to understand that they've been lied to and they've been manipulated, and they can put themselves back together.
Here's a question, but I've got to ask this very cryptically, right? So
Okay.
let's be very cryptic. Let's say there's a rapper who's in jail, right? Who has some children who are not in jail, and you suspect that this individual is as a victim. Do you think that we should also consider the possibility that his children are victims in all of this as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's how they're keeping everybody locked in. And they think that there's no escape. And it's not just that I want to help people, and I want to help people. It's that it's bigger than me. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than them. It's bigger than us. It's about human evolvement.
Do you
And
think
like you said, there's so many good people in the world. And if we all join together with our energy and our attention, and we get the proper education to understand what's really going on, and the awareness of what's really going on and how they're operating, we can shut them down. Like you said, if the elite were in the field and we were also in the field, they wouldn't stand. So we have to fight in the way that they're fighting. It's a spiritual battle. And when we bring awareness to what they're doing, how they're catching people in these traps, if we can take away the traps by bringing awareness to the people. And that's what it's about. It's about the human collective and the human psyche raising up onto a higher level of consciousness where we do no harm.
I agree. I just wanted to go one more quick question before we go to Alb's super chat there. Should we be concerned? I don't know if you know anything about, or you can comment on Will Smith and his family situation. One of his kids, his son, has been, making a lot of very subtle hints of some issues, some things that took place in a castle or an old sort of large stone house building. Do you think they're ones to be concerned about as well?
I think it's so obvious.
Okay.
I mean, absolutely. Not just Will and his family, but everybody and everybody's family. You see these people and you think that they're so happy and they made the money and they're dressed so nice. They have a nice house and a nice car and they're always smiling on the red carpet. Believe me, they're fucking miserable. They're not.
There's no exemptions.
Is horrible.
There's no exemptions unless it's your first single or your first movie. There's really no exemptions from the red carpet. Everyone is in some way.
Not everyone.
Not everyone.
You have people like Keanu Reeves. Look at Keanu Reeves.
Well, somebody asked that. Somebody asked that in the side chat, and I swear to God, if you ruin Keanu Reeves for me, I'm never speaking to you again, Zara. Right? But people were asking how has he achieved his success without signing over to the devil, metaphorically speaking?
Well, first of all, there's the whole thing about signing over the devil is a lie. They catch you on drugs, they manipulate you, and they tell you this: you sold your soul to the devil and you can't get it back, and now you're trapped forever, and we have you on tape so we control you. And that's the lie that we have to bring into the light. But look at Keanu's life. He lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. He gives his money away. He blesses up the people. The fruit is in the tree. The evidence is the fruit of the tree. Look at some other people that
he's paying the good side of the contract. He's doing a lot of good to the world. Yeah, see, it's interesting because it's a shining example of being the change you want to be in the world and see it return upon you. So yeah, big shout out Keanu Reeves, man. If you ever screw up Keanu, right, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. I'm telling you now, man. Humanity, we need you, Keanu. Okay, we need you. Okay, my G. My G. Do you know, one fun fact about Keanu, right? You know, when he does pictures with fans, he won't actually make contact with any of his fans, like female fans, because he doesn't want to seem too intrusive. So his arms always like floating around them or floating at the side. He's a legend. The guy's a legend. Anyway, sharp Ron. Carry on, Sean.
All right. Yes, we've got quite a lot of questions come in. Here's one from Alb. What did your father eat and do to stay healthy? Did he fast or pray a lot?
My father was, first of all, eating only ITEL food, and he had a chef that cooked him only, really good food. He was in a state of meditation. Like, meditation isn't just sitting down and meditating, although that is a form of meditation. He was just a higher conscious minded person. And he was just he's a pure soul. He's just an absolute pure soul with a higher mind. And it's harder to take us down.
So Jessica is saying, thank you for your beautiful beingness. And what about Madonna? Your thoughts on Madonna?
Well, I never met her, so I can't really speak to her from personal experience. But I think that it's obvious kind of the things that she's into. I heard about the book that she produced of sex photos, including DOGs and stuff like that. I mean, I think that if you want to know where a person is at, just look at what they're into. Like Keanu Reeves lives a pure lifestyle and he helps so many people. He has a pure soul. He's an innocent being. And then other people, they're involved in filthy, unclean things, and it's obvious.
So Pam wants to know, who are the gatekeepers? Are they the rich and famous?
Gatekeepers of what? We have gatekeepers of heaven and gatekeepers of hell, so be more specific.
I think Pam's referring to like the gatekeepers who decide who's going to get the fame and what they're going to have to give up to get that fame.
So, all right. The people that you hear about, like in the Illuminati, and you hear all the faces, the names, and the this and the that, those are puppets. Okay? The real people are behind the scenes, would never let you know their name. They would never let you see their face. And they're so completely demonized that you wouldn't want to. What you see is it's a surface show. It's a puppet show. What's going on is much uglier and much deeper, and you don't want to know about it. Keep your innocence.
Kiwi wants to know, how are you normal?
If I ever figure it out, I'll let you know. And if you ever figure it out, please let me know. I think a lot of people want to know. I think that during the 2 years that I was being abused, when I was in that school from 14 to 16, I just curled myself up in the arms of the Most High. And I think that any sweet, innocent, pure soul that turns to God is blessed and protected. And I really believe very, very strongly in God, in a creator. And I don't care what religion you are. I'm a Jew, but I live in Israel. But I, as a Jewish girl, went to go live in a Palestinian village for 7 years, wore hijab and prayed in Al-Aqsa and studied the Quran in Arabic. So it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or if you're atheist or you're like, there is a creator and there's a divine source within you, and that is our connection to God. And if you put yourself in that place, it cleans your soul, it heals your mind. And when you've been through such serious abuse, it doesn't just go away in a moment, but in a moment you can be in that moment of healing and peace. So I think that I'm normal because I believe in God and because I depended upon God to protect me and to keep me clean. And without God, I'm nothing.
Miss Fiji is asking, when they select these kids, whether blood type is a criteria.
Well, I don't know because I was never a part of the selection process. Like, I don't know. I was never with any of these people that select children. I don't know how they even chose me. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Yeah,
wasn't privy to any of those conversations.
Yeah, there is.
You
There
got-
is. There's. I can't remember the blood types, but there's two specific.
Well, I
That
may be negative, if that means anything.
I, there's one specific blood type that you can transfuse almost any other blood. Anyway, I won't try and misremember what I'm talking about, but I know there is something to do with the blood. Sorry, Sean, carry on.
You've had several questions come in about the portrayals of Bob Marley in films and documentaries, and whether you think they are accurate, including Bob Marley One Love.
Well, the One Love movie is a total fiction. It's an absolute fairy tale. It's a fake narrative, and I can explain to you why this fake narrative was created in the first place. And I am hoping that my family will do the right thing and move from a false foundation built upon lies and put themselves firmly upon a foundation of truth, because false foundations crumble in. All right, lies are not real, they're fake, they're made up, it's a mask, there's nothing to stand on, and they're standing on a fake foundation. My father was never married. He considered himself to be a free man from the beginning. He doesn't remember marrying Rita. There's so much testimony that she was doing obia and all this stuff, and I don't want to get into slandering my family with any kind of libel. But the truth is, I have to speak the truth without really addressing the negativity or the lies. You can see that for yourself, what's going on. But the truth is that my father lived tribally, in the sense that my father knew that a lot of these children were not his, okay? And he didn't care. He loved them as his own. He raised them as his own with a pure heart, as a pure soul. When it was in the beginning, I remember that they were trying to market him to the general American population, which at that time, it's mostly a Christian population, and they didn't think that this guy who had 10 kids with 10 different mothers would sell. So they designed this whole traditional image that he was a man with a wife and these kids, and I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. My father was a free man, and he was with many people. And people say that he cheated on Rita, but really it was Rita that cheated on him. And I mean, there's all this testimony about him not even remembering marrying her. It's, he referred to her as his sister. I don't really have nice things to say about Rita. It's a very bad woman in my story. And she caused a lot of harm to my life. And God will sort out her soul, but she's not a good woman. And she did really bad things. And she's behind this whole fake story. And she hurt a lot of people. And she'll pay for all of that. But my father was a good man. And, without saying any names, there was actually a woman that he really loved. I mean, he loved all the women, right? Let's keep it real. He loved all the women. But there was actually, in the beginning, a woman that he was developing a relationship with, and a woman that he really, really loved. And Rita broke them up. And she was a very manipulative person. And she is a self-serving person. You don't need me to tell you that. She's known for, being self-centered and self-serving. And I mean, there's just so many stories out there about what her real behavior is. And I don't think that I should have to talk about it because she really hurt me. She hid my identity. She did very cruel things to me. And I don't really have anything nice to say about her. And if I open up that Pandora's box, I mean, we'll be talking until the sun comes up, about her alone. I don't have anything nice to say. I just don't. I'm sorry.
So Kiwi is saying that when she talks about the things that we've talked about this evening to her family members, they think she's completely crazy. And how can she make people understand?
I don't know if I understand. Can you be more?
So, like the things that we've talked about today in this interview, Kiwi says she's tried to talk to them with her family, about the SRA, the tunnels, that kind of thing. But when she says these things to her family, they think she's completely crazy, and she wants advice on how to talk to people to make them understand that this is happening.
It's very difficult to wake people up. Very difficult. You have to understand, first of all, people are programmed. They're running on a program. Something my Uncle Peter taught me was that people think that they know how to think, and they think that their thoughts are their own, but they're not thinking. They're running on a program. And it's so obvious. I'm going to give you an example. Fallen angels. This is another lie. Like, you can sell your soul to the devil and all this stuff. An angel has no will. They have no free will of its own. God created human beings because he wanted something that didn't worship him all the time, that had free will. Angels do not have free will. So how could it fall away from God? How could it rebel? And this is something my Uncle Peter taught to me. It can't. So people are so programmed that they're blind and they can't even hear the most obvious thing. Fallen angel is an oxymoron. If you're an angel and you have no free will, how can you fall? How can you rebel? You can't. So you have to first understand that people don't know how to think for themselves, and they're running on a program. So you have to understand and identify what program are they running on, and how to find a place in that program where you can insert information that they won't reject. Because people are in these programs, they're wired to reject very strongly anything that has to do with the truth. So one way to help them see is to find things that are accepted as in the norm, in the mainstream. Like from what I understand, there's some evidence of these tunnels that they found under P. Diddy's home, and there's evidence of these tunnels. I heard about the underground world where people drive their cars. You never see them in traffic. The famous people, why are they never sitting in traffic with the rest of us? Because they're driving in these underground. So find the evidence that's in the mainstream, that's accepted, because that's a part of a programming that you can show them. Look, it's not coming from me or these crazy conspiracy theories, but it is already proven. Like just in the Sean Combs case, there's a lot of evidence that's coming out. Use this evidence, find things that have already been proven and that are in the mainstream media. And you have to remember, it's like baby steps. You don't want them to understand everything that you understand, and you don't want them to know everything that you know in the beginning. Just like it took you time and it took you a process to learn this information and to process and digest and understand this information. You have to feed it to them. You have to plant seeds, and you have to water those seeds so that the seeds of truth, so that they can start to break free from this psychological programming. Anybody that's watching the news or all up in the basic education system, you're getting programmed. And that's a whole part of the sadistic system, is to disconnect us from ourselves and fill us with a brainwashed propaganda program so that we become their little slaves. Even if we're not participating in the sadistic rituals, we're all working just to pay bills. It's it's a construct of control. So you have to understand that they're in that construct, they're in that programming. And if you want to reach them, you have to identify the programming, find seeds of truth to plant inside of them, water it with more truth, and remember, it's baby steps. You have to give it to them little by little.
Yeah, when economics is the weapon of choice for these people as well,
Yeah.
if you can just keep people too stressed out and focused on bills and the mortgage and all of this, the distraction and you've got to ask yourself why life should be easier now than when we were kids, right? We should have progressed, but the wokeness and people's alertness they've got to keep us busy and occupied. The last thing they want is lockdown didn't go the way they thought it would. Okay, a lot of people decided to go online and educate themselves, and that they kind of backfired. Okay, so they got to crush your soul some way, and weaponizing the economy is the one, man. I'm telling you, it is. I often say as well, there's nothing better for the cabal than a natural disaster as well, because it's amazing how often 30,000 kids just vanish off a list. That's all I'm saying. So,
well, all of these wars, like when they go and they just obliterate a place, they go in and they steal whole families.
yeah,
They steal children, and they just count them as casualties of wars, and they bring them into the underground world.
Yeah.
I would like to come back.
Literally pillaging. Okay, it is literally
yes.
Viking pillaging, except
in the worst way, more than Vikings.
Oh, it's totally, of course, but I mean, I'm saying it is. It's mad. It's mad, honestly.
Yeah, and they bring them into the inside world, and I would actually love to come back and talk just about that. Like, I have so much information; it's hard for me to stay focused, and everything leads into everything. But if we want to do a talk just on the underground world and how it's run and what goes on there, you won't believe
Zara, I've already got 3 other shows planned that I want to talk to you about after this. I'm way ahead of you. We're way ahead of you. So,
but they steal these people from these war zones. They act them as casualties of war, and they bring them into the underground world, and they process them in the most brutal way. Some of them end up using as breeders. These people consume a lot of innocent life, and they have to.
We were asked earlier about the children of celebrities, right? And do you feel that we're moving into the era where it's too in the public light now, and farming, if you know what I'm saying, is going to be the new mythology, which is the new reality of what these individuals are doing, because it's safer to keep it all behind closed doors than to publicly traumatize another Justin Bieber. Do you know what I'm saying? We can't have dozens of Justin Biebers running around who possibly crack one day. Allegedly happened to Justin Bieber. Do you see what I mean? Do you think that they're sort of clocking on to the metaphorical trauma trail in the public now, and they'll maybe try and keep things a little more self-sufficient, if you will?
Well, they've always been self-sufficient. I mean, they traffic people. A lot of the people that get transported, human transportation, they aren't just for the inner world. Okay, there are people that are with the PDF file that are within the disgusting realm of norm of human souls. They do bad things, but they're still human. So you have trafficking, human transportation for that. Okay, so you have what we see as trafficking are known people that disappear. Okay, there's that. Then there's the people that are farming or breeding or whatever. 100%. In the inner world, in the inside world, they are, I don't want to say pretty self-sufficient, but they could survive.
So is it just a status thing in the evil world to have your victims in the public eye? Is there an evil round case?
No. Oh, okay. Wow. So now we're talking about humiliation. So I was a humiliation offering for someone in my family, and they get off on the fact that I live in poverty and that I'm calling them out. And there's so much they love to see their victims suffering. They love to see their victims lost. They love to see them trying to talk about it, because it sounds so crazy nobody's gonna believe that.
That's what I was getting at. That is a thing. That is like the crown jewel. If you are in the public eye screaming and no one believes you, that is the
Love it.
epiphany. That right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's the icing on the cake.
Dude, honestly,
Well,
Zara, honestly, it's sad that all of these things we've been talking about are a reality. But
it's
the fact
hard.
that you're sitting here validating it all, and
Well, I'm not the only one. I've heard that there's a lot of people coming out about it now. People that have been inside the underground world. See, they have the surface people and they have the people that live inside the earth. And there's the people that go back and forth. So inside the earth, they don't need the people from the war zones and from the trafficking, but they enjoy it. They get off. But they don't need them. They're self-sufficient on the inside.
is there a and again, sorry, is there a hierarchy of, now the word respect I use loosely, right? But for the individuals that they farm themselves compared to the ones they bring in from war, is there a difference in how these individuals are treated compared? So there is
Absolutely.
like a more throw, and again, excuse my terminology, but almost a more throwaway mindset to the bonus extras from the war, if that makes sense in their mindset. Is that how it's kind of seen?
I hear you. So the difference between an inner world person that was born there
Inner world,
and an
yep,
outer world person
brought in.
is in their upbringing and their programming. So
Okay,
they get different results off of dealing with different people. They deal with them in different ways. Like
okay,
for a horrible example, let's say that they bring a family that was maybe in a war or in a natural disaster.
sure,
They bring them into the inner world and they process them. They process them in a very exact way to maximize humiliation, to completely destroy them and break them down. Like kind of like back in the day, they had the gladiator fight to the death and everybody sits around and cheers on these bloody, fights. So it's kind of like that. They process these people in such brutal ways, but the people that are there are enjoying it. I still can't figure out how, but because they're wired differently, they're demonized. So this is demon activity. They enjoy it. So if I can speak about a horrible example, that's kind of a basic example. Let's just say they have a husband, a wife, and 3 children.
okay.
So they'll bring them inside and they drug them and they do, I mean, this is sadism. You have to understand. They will cause a father to harm his own daughter in a very inappropriate way. I can't remember the.
No, that's enough. Like honestly, we get it. Don't worry. You don't have to relive that. Right?
And then they'll manipulate him. They'll say she's going to be harmed by all of these bunch of people, or you can harm her.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they're on scopolamine and they're on drugs, so they can't, even really fight for themselves.
Oh.
Like, and they like, I mean, the sickness is just, it's just beyond comprehension. They will.
You know what's beyond comprehension is this isn't our day at the office for them. We're talking about us hearing about that for the first time. Comprehend that's just another Tuesday afternoon down the club, right?
Yep. It's lunchtime.
Right? It's like as much thought as you would give to a firework after you light it, right? About as much thought. It's wild. It's wild. And honestly.
Yeah, I want to be graphic just for 1 minute to explain a tip of the iceberg so that people can understand the sickness of a sadist or a demonized person. Okay. They have doctors and facilities down there. Okay. They can amputate a person's arm, beat that person with their own arm, cook that arm and feed it to them.
Yeah.
And then the next arm. And they're so incredibly sick. They will be hurting a child with the mother who's watching and screaming and crying, please stop. And they get off, the more she screams and cries, the more they get off on it. And they will put the child on the mother while they're continuing to hurt it and say, well, if you hug your child, we'll stop. But they already cut off her arms. Do you understand me now? This is sadistic abuse, and this is what's really going on.
Well, there's a whole new template for my night terrors. That one, wow.
And that's a clean story of, you have to understand, this is demonic behavior.
Yeah, wow.
It's sadistic. The more pain and humiliation they inflict, the greater they feel. They're the opposite of us.
That is the essence then when we talk about humiliation ritual, right? That is the humiliation ritual. The mother with no arms being told her child's suffering will stop if she embraces it. Wow.
Incomprehensible. They want to destroy the mind. That's why when I talk about in healing, how do you put your mind back together? How do you cleanse yourself? They inject you with this evil, with this sadism. That's why it's so important for people to understand this whole satanic ritual and music industry stuff is just a puppet show for what's really going on and what it's feeding. And what it's feeding is an evil demonic source. And the only way to truly not get touched by it and to recover from it is to honestly believe in whatever God you have, with that pure divine light inside of you, and to cling to innocence and purity, and to understand it's a real spiritual war that's manifest in the physical realm.
You got a question from Lorraine about this. Do these demonic souls reincarnate into a better soul next time?
So anybody that wants to be a better soul has to do the work. But you have to understand that these demonic souls, they kick people, they evict people out of their own body, and they completely take over the body. And it doesn't always happen overnight. It's a process of demonizing a person. But they do reincarnate through themselves and through one another all the time. They pull one another through. If somebody wants to come back as a good soul, you can't die as a bad soul and just be reborn as a good soul. You have to do the work. You have to, if you got demonized in any way, you have to repent. If you willingly participated in any of this, even if you were originally a victim, if you willingly participated, you have to repent. You have to recognize that this is horribly wrong and I don't want to have anything to do with it. And you have to repent to God, and you have to make amends. And then you have to probably spend the next, Lord only knows how many lives, trying to heal yourself and work on it. It's a process. There's no magic pill that you can just take and then all of a sudden you're fixed. You know, people, what they do is they learn how to carry their trauma. It never really goes away. You can not focus on it, but it's always there. You just learn how to exist with it.
Pam
Sean,
wants to know.
I'm going to go make a quick coffee. Please don't end this live stream. Okay, I'll be 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Pam wants to know when your book is coming out.
So I was hoping it was coming out last year, but so I'm writing 3 books. Okay, so one book is just about my father and my relationship with my siblings and all the good times and all the cute stories. I have so much wonderful things to say. And the name of the book is called So Much Love to Give, and that's about my father. So that has nothing to do with the sadism. But I do talk about his integrity and his, in that book. And so then the other 2 books I'm writing is, one is Reclaim Your Soul, and the other one is the sequel to it called Escaping Sadism, Healing and Recovery. So Reclaim Your Soul, basically, I'm talking about basically exposing the lies, like that you can sell your soul, exposing the traps that they set for people, how they catch people, how they, and then the second book is about escaping sadism. It's for the people that fell into the trap of sadism and how they can escape it and how they can heal in recovery. So I had wanted them to come out last year, but I had pictures of me and my father and pictures of me and my siblings that were taken from me when my identity was hidden, and a whole bunch of other stuff I'm not getting into right now. And I had really hoped to reach my family in a positive way, and that they would, give me access to these pictures. And I have not had a positive result. So I was holding out for a while because I really wanted to dedicate the book to my father, and I wanted to have a picture that I know specifically of that exists of me and my father, and I wanted to put it on the book, but I don't have any access to it. But what I do want to say is that I'm the one that walked away 30 years ago without saying a word to anyone in my family. I changed my name, I left the country, and I didn't look back. But when my book is coming out now, I mean, we're considering taking pre-orders in the next week or two. Basically, hopefully, I want the date that I release it on to be meaningful. So maybe on my father's death anniversary, which is May 11th. Soon. I mean, the first book is pretty much done. But I've been holding back because I wanted to reach my family. I'm not in communication with my family directly. It's a very difficult and sensitive thing. And apparently I found out that I was a humiliation ritual for certain people in my family. And that's really quite hurtful. And I tried to reach them in hopes that they would try to escape. For some of them, you have to understand, my family is a very big family, and there's a lot of people in my family that you don't even know exist, that you've never heard of. Not everybody in my family is well known. So when I say my family, I'm talking about the whole tribe. And there's a lot of people in my family that are clean and pure and good people. And then there's people that fell into the sadistic trap. There's people that were abused as children and are trapped. And I would like for them not to be trapped. But I can't, you can lead a human to knowledge, but you can't make them think. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I can try to communicate with them, but if they don't want to communicate with me, there's nothing I can do to force them to communicate with me other than take them to court. Now, I've spoken to lawyers, and I've spoken to other kinds of authorities about what my rights are legally and what I can say and what I can do. And the only way they can sue me, they would have to take me to court, like for saying I'm Bob Marley's daughter. I'm not legally or publicly recognized. So I've had a lot of people online be like, oh, they're going to sue you. You're a liar. Well, sue me then. Let's do it. Because all I have to do is go to court and say, look at my DNA. I'm sorry, I can't say that I'm who? I can't say that I'm Bob Marley's daughter. Well, let's look at your DNA, because there's a lot of people in my family that people think are Marleys, and they're not. And my father didn't care. He loved them for who they were. But so they're not going to take me to court over me saying that I'm Bob Marley's daughter. They're choosing to do me wrong, and I'm very unhappy about it, but I'm still trying to work it out privately. I mean, I do posts and I talk about it. If you really want to know, you can go to my page, and I talk much more openly about what's gone on. I just don't want to, I don't want to mix it up in this content, because my books, Reclaim Your Soul and Escaping Sadism, Healing and Recovery, they're not so connected to my family. And even though there's people in my family that fell into the sadistic trap, I'm trying to create a safe space, not just for my family, but for all people. It's a very difficult thing to admit that you've been abused. And there's so much people that just want to rip you to shreds about it. So I'm trying to create a safe space through awareness, so people can be aware and educated about how these traps are set up and how people are lured into them and drugged into them and trapped into them. And if we can have just a little bit of grace and mercy in our heart, to give them a safe space to heal and try to reclaim their soul. Otherwise, they'll just stay trapped. Like, I would like to see a mass exodus of people from the music industry, from the entertainment industry, from politics, from wherever, to reclaim their soul, to get out of this lie, to get out of this trap, to evolve their soul. There was a question about when you come back and you come back as a new soul, you have to do that work. And we have to, as a humanity, we have to understand that there's victims, and if we're just going to beat them up, then they're never going to evolve, and we want them to evolve. And as far as how do we win this battle with, good versus evil, and, the good souls versus the demonic entities that are here, I think the only thing we can really do is just be strong in our own innocence. And if you believe in God, cling to that and just keep fighting the good fight. And, by the hand of God, good will overcome evil. But I personally don't want to see the people trapped in evil go down with the evil. I would like to see as many people get saved and elevate their soul back into the light of goodness as possible.
Well said. For people who want to pre-order your book, is it best for them to message you through the Facebook links we've got in the description box on the YouTube video here?
So when we're ready to set up the pre-order thing, I'm pretty sure that we're doing it through Amazon. I'm not really so much involved with that whole process because, as a lot of creative people are, they need people to do those other tasks. But I think probably not my Facebook Messenger, because I get so many messages every day. I can't keep up. I can't keep up. So maybe when we actually set it up, we can make an announcement and you can go. It's going to be through Amazon. I'm pretty sure that's what they're planning, to have the self-publishing through Amazon and the pre-ordering and everything through Amazon. So maybe in the next week or two, it'll be available for pre-order, but we want to get it out. We don't want to have pre-ordering available too far away from the time that we're releasing the book, because that's not fair to the people. So the pre-ordering, we want to set up the pre-ordering within a decent amount of time that we're releasing the book. I don't know if that makes any sense. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. All right.
That's not my realm. You can talk to my publicist about that. Yeah, so soon is the answer. But maybe in a week or two, if we set up pre-order, and then I can have it released by May 11th. If not May 11th, it would have to be on my birthday, which is July 11th, but we don't want it to take that long. So, I'm not going to be the one that sets up the pre-ordering. I can, I'm very limited in my knowledge of technology and doing these things. So I do depend on other people for it. So soon, I guess, is the most horrible but best answer I can give.
I know it's getting late there, so we'll do just a few final questions. So,
Okay.
Truthful Glow, this is fascinating yet unsettling. How does Zara know these events have taken place? Well, you've lived it, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I'm only speaking on my own experience. I don't really follow too many people or things to know what other people are saying, although I have heard little bits here and there recently, especially with the arrest of Sean Combs and what was going on with that, because I knew Sean or I met him. But like I said in the beginning, I was more with, or completely with like the Wu-Tang Clan and those kind of people that were against that. And look up that Hit 'Em Up video, because you'll see the Wu-Tang Clan. And this was at a time, the song Hit 'Em Up Alone is just about this whole beef with Sean and Biggie. And the Wu-Tang Clan, even though they were East Coast, they jumped in on the video to show the support for Tupac, making it clear that they're not down with this Sean Combs behavior, these kinds of parties and stuff. So there are people in the music industry that make it. There are people in the entertainment industry that make it, that don't get caught in the sadistic trap. But the majority of the people, especially in these days, as these people have gained more and more power, most of them are are trapped. But yeah,
So,
I just speak basically on my experience.
Ron, it's almost midnight in Israel where Zara is, so we're finishing shortly. Do you have any final questions?
No, I just want to, if Zara, if you could just, when we disconnect the live, if you could just stick around for a couple of minutes, I would really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope I didn't ramble too much. I want everybody to know I'm not a content creator. I am a very free thinker, and I go off in my own ramblings. And so thank you for trying to follow along. And I hope I wasn't confusing or talking too much or, sucking up all the air in the room or whatever you say.
There's
You're brilliant.
several thousand people that I've conditioned to deal with me interrupting not just the guests but myself on a daily basis. So trust me, they're used to it. So do not worry. You did really, really well. You did really well.
Yeah, you're a brilliant speaker. And is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion then to the people who've been watching this for almost 3 hours?
Wow. Well, first of all, you guys are real warriors, and never give up the fight. Always validate yourself. Like big yourself up in a positive way. You're using your mind and your energy and your purpose to bring good into the world and to expose the darkness and the evil. And that you should just all pat yourself on the shoulder and congratulate yourselves that you are a part of the team of bringing the darkness to light and a part of the healing. And just using your mind and your mental intention to listen to this, to make yourself aware and to stand against it. You should just be proud of yourselves that you're amongst the people who are interested in truth, the truth seekers, all of you. I just, and to never, please never put me or anyone on a pedestal. We're all equal. We all have different gifts and different callings and different abilities. I'm not better than you in any way. I'm just a person sharing my experience. And, Bob is my father, and I believe that I have special and unique experiences because of that. But that doesn't mean that my experiences are better than yours. We shouldn't be doing any of this kind of behavior. We should realize that we're all in it together. We all have an important place to stand, an important thing to say, an important fight to put up in conquering evil with love and kindness and goodness and light. And that's how we win. That's how we heal. So to every single one that's listened to me, that's on the team, good team, just big up yourself and keep on.
Well said, and thank you for coming on. Anything in conclusion, Ron?
If you're not part of the light team, suck your mums. And thank you all for watching, and like and share. Make sure you push this out. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock with Danny Henderson, continuing on our show all about the cabal, delving deeper into the realities of demons, what it means in this day and age, and the history of these demonic energies. So come and tune in for that. And it's just been awesome, honestly. Zara and Sean, thank you for this. It's been amazing. Thank you.
All right, and I'm back tomorrow at 7 with Lionel, the ex-prosecutor, and then at 8 we have got grooming gang survivor Kate back for part 3. And if you missed my interview with John Hilton last night, 45 years in UK prison, his house was bombed during the war. His entire family got wiped out, gets put in prison. They torture him, loses his fingers, some of his fingers, and on and on and on and on it goes. That one. This video, when it ends, will take you over to that one. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Zara's Facebook links are in the description. So if you want to reach out and follow and support her important work, and the book will be out soon, we will keep you posted about that. So huge thank you for Zara for coming on, and we'll see some of you tomorrow.
Thank you so much for having me on. You guys are great. I'm so glad that my publicist found you. She's amazing. You guys are amazing. And now I want to start tuning into you now that I know you exist. I'm so interested in the work that you're doing. And you have a new fan named Zara Marley.
Please don't go anywhere, Zara. Please just stay where you are.